Monday Night Football is here. Panthers-Niners. What more could you ask for to close out the week before we get to Thanksgiving? But of course, the work begins here as it always does in the Splash Play channel. We're going to dig in and compare projections, looking at data from Stochastic, see who the top plays are, who the top value plays are. We'll also check out who the most owned plays are according to their data. We'll hop across the aisle, see what ETR and the gang thinks. What's your cash game optimal? If they have sims, we'll run those with ETR data. We'll hop back, do some Stochastic sims. I'll do a single lineup build. But in this video, guys, we're going to know all the must plays and 3 ways to get unique for today's Monday Night Football Showdown slate. Panthers-Niners. Let's get into it here. Hope it was a good weekend for you guys. It felt like I had some of the good parts of winning lineups right. Got the not paying up from Mahomes thing right. Got also fading Goff looking mostly right for the most part. Wan'Dale Robinson, another player that we talked about. Jameis got that part right. She did not put it together for a great week. It was one of those NFL weeks that's pretty frustrating for me, but hopefully it was a good one for you guys as well. I think ultimately feeling good about the content run out lately of getting things correct on the stream. And ultimately for me, as somebody that is purely egotistical about no, just I want to get things right for you guys. Ultimately, to me, that's the hallmark of a good week. I do feel like the content part was good for me, both on Live Before Lock yesterday and, of course, our must plays video. So maybe that worked for somebody out there, but not me. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate our guy KY here. Appreciate our guy Robert Griffin the Turd here. Love that thumbnail. Stochastic pushing for Niners. We'll see what we get here in a moment. We got Philly Phantom. Shout out to all you guys hanging out here, whether you are watching live or after the fact. I appreciate you guys being here. And a lot of you guys lately have been helping out, hitting that like button, subscribing, and all that. So please do that again here. But let's go. I am more autist than egotist. I don't think I give off autist vibes. I am OCD about my prep work, but I don't think autist. I don't think that's fair. I don't like collecting things. I don't like lining things up. I don't find beauty in those things. But you know, maybe Luka can carry that trend on. Your top projected plays today. We've got Christian McCaffrey, 27.4 fantasy points. He's going to make every lineup. I mean, that's just what it is right away. Revenge game, right, as well, even though it is not a spot where we are back in Carolina. Perhaps all of the hate that he has in his heart for the Panthers after they traded him to a team that's used him much better, helped him make Super Bowls. I'm sure he'll be really angry at them. But really the big thing here is that we have 7 fantasy points difference between McCaffrey and Brock Purdy. Right away, my guess would be if you don't play McCaffrey, you'll be different from a lot of the field. So strap in for that to be one of your ways to get unique on the slate later on in the video. But McCaffrey here, I feel like one of those players that you know what the case is for. Carolina's run defense is a little bit better than league average. Negative 0.01 EPA per rush. In the red zone, they're pretty stiff overall. Negative 0.3 EPA per red zone opportunity. But they do give up a lot of RB targets and 19% target rate. The PPR scam alone for McCaffrey, you can get him there. Still would make the case that McCaffrey is not old McCaffrey, especially in the run game, a negative 0.1 EPA per rush, 12% avoided tackle rate. I mean, he's not really old Joe Mixon, but he's closer to old Joe Mixon than he is somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think it's important we recognize that. That said, for McCaffrey here, he really is a player that is projected so highly that it seems like it's impossible to fade him. And I think that's part of the things. If you play him in a few lineups or fade him in a few lineups, get unique around that. What hits for McCaffrey to not make a lineup? Probably the Panthers kicking the Niners' ass, which nobody will be playing, nobody will be expecting. Brock Purdy going nuts in the pass game and somehow not passing it to McCaffrey. That's another one. I think if you play a receiver at captain, if you play Kittle, you play Pearsall, you play Juwan Jennings at captain, I think that's one way that sort of makes sense if you're not playing McCaffrey. But most likely with that projection on McCaffrey, so much higher than everybody else in the game, it's very likely that he makes a winning lineup in the flex, even if his game is awful, barring injury, things like that. So McCaffrey, your first play on the slate, and really for most people be the first guy they put into a lineup, whether it's at captain or in the flex. Brock Purdy at number 2, a 20.4 projection for him. Certainly a more willing thrower to all the various targets for the Niners than Mac Jones was. Mac Jones, it felt like every week, was feeding Kendrick Bourne, sometimes feeding Juwan Jennings a little bit, but Kittle not really having the upside. But Kittle now up to 5 targets a game. Purdy impacting that a little bit positively. Pearsall and Jennings at 6.2 targets a game. It is a flat target tree besides McCaffrey and his 8.7 targets a game. For Purdy, I think he's one of those players that will be the most obvious lever at captain if people aren't going to McCaffrey. We'll see what the ownership looks like in a moment here, but Purdy, I think, is a rock solid QB. Really no issue with playing him on a slate. The big thing for me, though, is that he's not running very much on the year. Under 1 rushing attempt per game, it looks like. He actually doesn't make the qualifying rushers for me right now, but he has under 1 in the red zone per game, so that's, I assume he's getting about 1 per game overall. For Purdy, not that upside not being there makes him a little bit tougher captain play for me. But if you have multiple pass catchers playing him at captain, then it's an option that people will run to a good amount. Rico Dowdle, 18.9 projection for him at a 10-4 salary. I wonder what the ownership's going to be on Rico Dowdle because it is a softer matchup going against the Niners pass defense. On the year, they're giving up 0.16 EPA per dropback, 0.18 EPA per pass. For comparison, a negative 0.03 EPA per rush allowed, negative 0.3 EPA per red zone rush allowed. So two good red zone run defense here. That doesn't mean everything in the world, but it does mean higher probability of these guys, the running backs, not getting into the end zone. Maybe more field goals as a result, or, more passing production if these teams do get to the red zone. For Bryce Young, the big thing is that he passed for 440 yards last week. A lot of that going to Ted McMillan, but for Bryce Young to throw 400 yards, now the matchup against a, also not great secondary, I think is a pretty appealing spot to go to Bryce Young. That is why he's on our thumbnail today. What it comes down to me is what's going to be higher played? Are people going to chase Bryce Young going for 400 yards? Are they going to play him more? Or are they going to play Rico Dowdle, who has been the lead back? And I do think is a guy where if you want to keep the ball away from the Niners here, going to Rico Dowdle more, hoping to get success in that run game and having him be a guy that does sort of kill time of possession a little bit more for the Niners would be sort of the hope for Rico Dowdle. So it comes down to what the ownership looks like. What are we getting more of? Projection-wise, Rico being 3 fantasy points higher than Bryce Young. My guess is that we might get Rico more in the optimal lineup than Bryce Young. But for the Fields ownership, I don't think it'd be crazy if they point chase Bryce Young, given the fact that that's what happens every single one of these island game kind of slates. There's always something that happened last week that gets a little bit overplayed because people are chasing that result. For Bryce Young, that might be the case today. And if that is the case, playing Rico Dowdle will look more appealing. But as it is projection-wise, that 18.9 projection at a 10-4 salary, I mean, you're probably going to get Purdy and McCaffrey in most lineups. I think you might get Rico in most lineups as well because he's about 3.5 fantasy points higher than the next guy, Ted McMillan. Ted McMillan, a 15.3 projection for him, $9,400 salary. Does feel like going back to Ted and Bryce Young after what they did last week. Again, a thing I think the field will do, but also it's nice to see some sort of proof of concept heading into a matchup where I expect the Niners to have the lead here, the total being about 7.5 points in favor of them at home. That would make you think that, obviously. But I think for Ted McMillan and Bryce Young, just the fact that they've showed game-breaking ceiling here makes me want to play Ted a little bit more captain. Makes me want to consider Bryce Young a captain as well, more than I probably would have if we just hadn't seen that game last week. So as I always say in these slates, if I'm thinking something, I assume a large portion of the field is, and that's an important way to kind of humble yourself about when you're building lineups, just what everybody knows. Do they know the same things you do? They might not know every EPA metric like I do, but sometimes they'll land those same things. And when it's an obvious box score thing that, Ted McMillan went nuts, won people all the tournaments last week, Bryce Young went nuts, same thing. I think it will get played a little bit more, but Ted McMillan and Bryce Young projection-wise, it does seem like these guys maybe won't get into as many lineups as Purdy, as Rico Dowdle, and definitely as Christian McCaffrey. And at number 5, we have Bryce Young here, a 15.3 projection, just a little bit ahead of George Kittle's 14.6 projection. Bryce Young, the fact that he could drop back endlessly and not be awful, I think is an important thing. His numbers week to week rounding into form a little bit more. He's still not good on the year. Negative 0.05 EPA per drop back, negative 0.07 EPA per pass. If he were good, those numbers would be positive, but they're not. So but he is still getting better each week. And I think to me right now, seeing that game last week, and I did watch a lot of that Carolina game, Bryce Young to me feels like feels a lot like Bryce Young last year, where there was a point when he got back that job, Andy Dalton got hurt again, gave the job back to him. Bryce Young came in, looked like the best possible version of Bryce Young. In terms of running an offense, he's still not like a playground ball guy, really. He's not going to ever be Josh Allen out there, but he can run a little bit, can create some upside overall for a passing game, can find guys like Leggett and Ted McMillan, and to a lesser extent, Coker and Jatavian Sanders a decent amount. I like what I've seen from Bryce Young. I'm willing to be there. But I do think at his price tag, $9,200, the fact that Kittle's cheaper, Juwan Jennings is cheaper, Ricky Pearsall's cheaper, obviously Kicker's defense is going to be cheaper. I just wonder what the play of the field's going to be with him, because I feel good about him. I don't know if the field's going to view that 400-yard game as an outlier that he can't do again, but the matchup is here. Really, the biggest thing is that it's Niners pass defense. I've talked about it for like a month now. It's not a good pass defense. They've got a ton of injured guys that certainly hasn't helped the equation either. But even before, your Fred Warner guys, those leaders of the defense went out, they are still not playing that well. So willing to go to Bryce Young this week. Curious to see what people handle it. I do think they'll point chase a little bit, but people still don't like Bryce Young, kind of like Kirk Cousins yesterday. Talked about that a little bit in the Discord. There are certain QBs that people just don't think are good, and I do think Bryce Young is one of those guys. So maybe gets chased a little bit less than another QB would be after putting up almost 450 yards in a game. Nothing else to note here. Let's sort by value. Sky Moore, your top value here. Obviously, at this point, the Niners mostly healthy, besides Brandon Ayuk and his whatever's going on there. But Sky Moore, $200 salary. Last week, Sky Moore, have to assume to not play a lot. Sky Moore inactive last week. So maybe inactive again here for right now, though he looks like a top value in Stochastics data. Kyle Juszczyk can pick up a few targets here and there. 4.1 projection for him feels a little bit lofty. Did play 29 snaps last week, 31 before that, 44 before that. Snap count was a little bit higher before they got a little bit healthier. But Juszczyk, not really. Yeah, I don't think I've seen him that high before. I think there's a reason for it. I don't buy this Juszczyk projection at 1,400. I still wouldn't play him. Well, I mean, not much. In a 150 set, you can play him a little bit. 20 max, I don't think I'd play him. Trevor Etienne, this point needs multiple injuries, I think, for him to be meaningfully involved at any point. That said, for Trevor Etienne, last week he played 4 snaps. Week before that, 0. 2 before that, 4 before that, 4 before that. He gets you like 5 snaps. Think you need an injury for him to get there. $400 salary, though. He is another unappealing value alongside Sky Moore. Christian McCaffrey, at $12.4 salary. He's your 4th best value. Really, McCaffrey, the field playing him at 90% today would not be a shocker with high value metrics and also the high projection on him. And some would say Trevor Etienne. Yes, let's never forget when I was touting Rico Dowdle on stream before the run started, and some guy bravely came in the chat and said, I wouldn't touch Rico Dowdle. I'd rather play Trevor Etienne. And that guy has not been seen since. I'm sure he's watching and disliking every video from afar. But yeah, that was one of the worst takes of the year. But trust me, if you want to see the worst takes here, just go through my best ball teams. Every player, Joe Mixon never coming back to football. See, there's literally articles about Joe Mixon now where he might not ever play in the league again. So it's hard to have worst take on the channel, given how some of my results have been. But boy, the Trevor Etienne over Rico Dowdle take, one of the worst ever, given the fact that Rico Dowdle, number one, playing for another deal. I think his agent and he think he's going to get money from Carolina this offseason. But also, just Trevor Etienne. Luke Farrell, $600 salary here. Backup reps for the Niners. Your 3rd string tight end for the Niners. Not the most exciting play, but 1.2 fantasy points, $600. Not a great value-laden slate here, but these guys are coming up a little bit. Now's the week. That's true. This is it. Rico gets hurt in game. Chuba Hubbard gets hurt in game. Bryce Young gets hurt in game. Ted McMillan gets hurt in game. Then Trevor Etienne's going to get you 10 touches for 2.5 yards per carry, and he might make a winning lineup. Your top owned players right now. The doctor accidentally amputate Mixon's foot. Mixon did I don't know what surgery he got, to be honest, but it was an unapproved surgery and apparently did not go well. He must have done some yah-yah shit, would be my guess. He must have done something real stupid with his foot. Because at this point, he had a foot injury in the spring, and he has a foot injury in winter. So, year-long foot injury, not usually the move. Imagine being Carolina and having to give big contracts to Hubbard. They didn't have to. They didn't have to give a contract to Chuba. They just did because they liked that he played hard, but he was never good. Rico Dowdle actually pretty good. Though honestly, even he, if they were to pay him, and they're not going to pay him that much. If they were to pay him $8 million a year, that's fair. If they pay him $10 million a year, he's not actually $10 million a year good. He's looked that good fantasy-wise for us. In reality, though, he's not actually that good. And most running backs are replaceable, as many of them are showing this year. 77% ownership for McCaffrey overall. No chance it's that low. Just that's impossible with this projection. And the fact that McCaffrey, people are dying to play him over the field every slate. And today it's a single game slate. So McCaffrey here, 77% expected ownership here. I'll scroll up so you can see a little more easily. 31% in captain. He will be in really, I would say as much as any player we've had in a showdown this year, he'll probably be in as close to every lineup as anybody we've had. And maybe I'll be off by a percentage point, something like that. But if I had to guess, 85% easy, 90% accounting for all the 150 maxers that'll fade him in some amount of lineups just to have a different look in case he gets hurt or something mid-game. But McCaffrey, your first guy in, really think the big thing would be trying to get unique. Not playing as much a captain would be the move, I think, for me. But look, he'll get in everywhere. It's hard to argue it. It's just whenever the field's playing something. So obviously, Chase Brown over the weekend, it's like Chase Brown wasn't bad in that game. He just wasn't enough to pay off as like a super chalky play. I was yelling about that on Friday. Then stochastic lowered the sim and it was a little bit less crazy. You weren't getting him in 95% of lineups. But McCaffrey here, sim-wise, it wouldn't shock me if we get him in like 95. And really, you should probably play him in 95 because he's very likely to make it. But just knowing what we know about DFS, which in general, if the field is all doing one thing and it makes him uncomfortable to not do this one thing, you're better off not doing that same thing a little bit. So that's where McCaffrey shakes out here with a ton of captain ownership at 31% and a little bit light overall ownership at 77. It'll be higher. Brock Purdy. We got 68% ownership for him overall, 18% at captain. Again, does feel like rolling with the pass catchers instead of Purdy makes a little bit more sense. But with Purdy at captain, you can roll McCaffrey's production into that, add a Pearsall on top, add a whatever you want of the Niners receivers on top. It does make sense. But that said, for Purdy here, a good player, I think, to me, a better fantasy QB than Mac Jones. Like, Mac Jones is often a good fantasy QB for one receiver. Purdy, a better fantasy QB in as much as he can spike different looks. He could spike Kittle. He could spike Pearsall. He could spike Juwan Jennings for 45 fantasy points like he did last year. That's what Purdy brings to the table here. So I think an appealing option. I think a little bit more appealing to me in the flex than at captain with that much ownership, but fine play. Weird situation where if you don't play CMC, you probably don't want to leave a ton of salary on the table. Yeah, Nolan, of course, one of our sharpest DFS guys in the channel, has had a lot of success over the years. I would agree with that because, like, there's not going to be a lot of people that don't play McCaffrey. So it's like we always talk about, like, when you're doing something, playing close to an optimal lineup or something in a showdown, you want to have, like, 1, 2, 3 things that make you unique there. Did you leave money on the table? Did you fade one of the chalkiest players? Did you build a different construction? We always talk about, 5 wins coming up naturally in the projections. You then want to build with the other team being a little bit heavier. That's paid off a lot lately. But I agree. Like, the fact that McCaffrey's going to be so highly played, if you just don't play McCaffrey and you get that right, until he puts up like 18 fantasy points and a bunch of other guys in the game put up 15 to 20. You probably spent all the money and you're okay. I mean, maybe not all 50K, but like 49.8, probably going to be a little more okay than it would usually be. Playing CMC up top will probably drive a lot to Sanders. Sure. Number 3 owned player, Rico Dowdle, 51% overall, 11% at captain. So right now, ownership pushing more towards Rico than Bryce Young. The projection did seem to favor Rico a little bit more, and Rico, I think, more of a trusted quantity by the field than Bryce Young will be. So I think that's it. I think you're going to play, at least I think I'm going to play more. You're going to play whatever you're going to play. I think I'm going to play more Bryce Young, play more Panther stacks today. But Rico as well, certainly another game script kind of situation where you're getting away from the beaten path. By playing the opposing RB, it does sort of scream the Niners less in control of this game than the Vegas total will indicate. So I think for Rico, still a good play here, but seems appropriately owned at 51% overall and 11% at captain. Ted McMillan, 41% overall, 9% at captain. Feels a little bit light to me after getting, again, finally, big outlier games for him. That said, for Ted, I mean, the matchup for him today, we got a Niners team that plays a lot of zone. Ted more of a man beater than a zone beater, 27% target rate, 2.6 yards per out run versus man compared to 24% and 2 yards per out run versus zone, but he's good versus both. He's really the only receiver I think that's reliably able to get open for the team at this point. Leggett's your number 2. Coker can certainly spike an upside. I think if people are going to play the Bryce Young side of the equation, they'll probably go to Tet first. So certainly considering those guys. For me, as somebody that wants to play more Bryce Young, if I'm going to play Tet with Bryce, I do want to try to play some Leggett with Bryce, Coker with Bryce, Jatavian Sanders with Bryce as well. But I think at this point, Ted McMillan, your number 1 option, feels good if you're playing him with McCaffrey. If you're playing a 5-1 Niners build, having Ted as your bring back seems logical as well. A game script, they're dropping back a lot. You probably see Ted get force-fed the ball a little bit more than they would like to do in a competitive game script. So like the ownership on Ted, it feels a little bit light to me. And maybe the field will be there more after, again, good games lately for him, but I think numbers look okay. Juwan Jennings, 40% overall, fields at 5.5. So after Ricky Pearsall being a non-factor in his return, I think I'd rather go Pearsall's way and hope that we capture, the day at a higher price tag people aren't going to want to play. But Juwan Jennings, been targeted 22% of the time he's running a route. Pearsall at 21 the entire season for whatever he's played. Pearsall definitely more of the explosive play guy. He can get there in one play, whereas Jennings, probably needs a well-rounded PPR day to get there. Both guys looking good, I think, overall to me, relative to the price tags under 8K. But Jennings at 40%, Pearsall at 23. I'd rather flatten that out, get both guys around 33%. It's the kind of thing I always talk about in these slates. I don't think Jennings is that much better of a play than Pearsall at $600 cheaper. They're kind of the same guy. And Bryce Young, 38% expected ownership, 5% in captain. I do wonder how many people chase that last game for them. But again, I really get the sense the field doesn't love Bryce Young or doesn't respect it as much as I do. Where I've seen good Bryce Young happen, I've been ahead of good Bryce Young happening. So like stuff like last week, being an outlier doesn't shock me as much. But I think for him, I don't know if the public will buy in, and they probably should, given there's not a lot of guys here that have thrown for 450 yards almost. Low-owned players down the chain. George Kittle, 35%. Pearsall, 23 overall. Both guys under 10% at captain. Pearsall under 5 at captain. Jatavian Sanders feels a little bit narrow for him to get there as a captain, but certainly I think if you're going to play Bryce Young, Tet McMillan will be the obvious assumption. Jatavian Sanders last week, 38 snaps. Tremble played more than him. Tremble played 46. That's something. I mean, Tremble's down here at 11% owned. Jatavian's at 22. I mean, neither one is the most exciting click in the world at this point. But, Jatavian going to be over-owned, I think, for a guy that played. I didn't know he played less snaps than Tremble last week. That's not great for him. Leggett down here under 10%. Really feels like the Carolina passing attack. I mean, you've got 21% owned, or 22% owned Sanders, 9% Leggett. Coker at 28 is a lot for him. Coker play last week. Coker got 54 snaps. Leggett 44. Coker outsnapped him by a little. Still don't think Coker should be 3% higher owned than Leggett. Yeah, I mean, look, the Carolina passing attack seems under-owned. Niners passing attack seems appropriately owned to me. And kickers as well, you got Matt Gay, the Niners kicker, at 31%. That's a lot of ownership for a kicker. On the Carolina side, you've got Ryan Fitzgerald at 21% ownership. So Matt Gay might be this is going to be a lot of Niners onslaught stuff, if I had to guess. But let's see. What do we get here on ETR's data? Let me make sure I'm logged in, because the solver loves to log me out when I'm mid-building lineups. Love the tool in the solver, as always. No sims, it looks like, for today. Let me refresh to make sure it's the case. Yeah, no sims yet. We'll run a cash game optimal right now in ETR. We'll see what we get here. Got to change the projection slightly. Just add a decimal point on. That'll do it. But guys, show some love if you can here. Hit that like button, subscribe. Again, the work continues on here for Splash Play. It looks like Wednesday will be our Thanksgiving stream. I'm preparing for that slate, so tune in. 12 p.m. Wednesday is going to be my goal for that one. But this week, I'll be on Stochastic live before lock tonight for the showdown as well. NBA video at 2 p.m. That's going to be going on most of the week as well. But it's a short week of content this week, so stay tuned here. Hit that like button, subscribe, and shout out to all you guys that have been helping me fight the YouTube algorithm here, because you guys have been hitting the like button a lot. Let's keep doing it here. This channel needs the same amount of love I'm giving to the NBA channel, so hit the like button, subscribe here. It goes a long way for me here. And, of course, check out the solver, check out Stochastic, all the stuff linked down in the description if you want to get access to all the tools I'm using here, or data. All right, our optimal lineup here. So we're getting 5-1 Niners as the optimal. Niners onslaught, definitely going to be it. All right, well, your optimal lineup right now with ETR data. Brock Purdy, captain. Christian McCaffrey makes it. Rico Dowdle makes it as our one Carolina Panther as a bring back. Juwan Jennings, Brian Robinson also makes it at 3,400. The workload has been a little bit higher for him over the last few weeks. Kyle Juszczyk makes it as well. And a pretty juicy projection on Juszczyk here, too. So, Stochastic at Juszczyk over 4. It feels a bit much. Juszczyk at 3.4 here also feels like a bit much, but both sides projecting him in that range. Overall, in the top 25 lineups here with no boosts being added on, it's just pure optimal, pure projection math. You've got McCaffrey in all these lineups, Brock Purdy in all these lineups, Jennings in almost all these lineups, but not quite. So really right away, it's one of those slates where if you fade McCaffrey, you'll be unique, but if you fade Purdy or McCaffrey, you might be just as unique here because Purdy, at least with the ETR data, is going to make as many lineups, it looks like, or, comparable amounts of lineups. Nothing noteworthy in player stacks. Overall stack construction. 72% of these lineups playing at least 4 Niners. If you count the 3 threes, 100% of lineups playing at least 3 Niners. So right away, if you were to play a 4-2 Panthers, get that right. I think you'd be entirely off the beaten path of projection math. If you were to play, yeah, I mean, if you're going to play any Panthers heavy stuff, you're going to get away from what the optimal lineups look like. I really think, though, that 5-1 Niners, 4-2 Niners, they're coming up a lot naturally here. I mean, 3-3 is too, but at least that's balanced. Heavy Niner stuff is just going to be played a ton by the field, and it'll fit the narrative too. And I don't think it makes sense with how bad the Niners secondary has been. Like, I just don't think going onslaught Niners here is the move, but that's what we're getting here. What's Jennings and Pearsall's usage? I already said their targets per out run. Yeah, I said their target. What more usage are you looking for? 6.2 targets a game, 22% target per out run for Jennings, 21% for Pearsall is their quote unquote usage. Optimal lineup with all the 3 RBs plus use check is Evan Silver written all over it. Yeah, a lot of testosterone in that lineup. Anyway, ETR data, you're gonna get a lot of Niners, not a surprise here. Let's see what Stochastic has for us here. Last stage of our journey before we do a hand build. Let's share this tab. Projections updated this morning. And we'll build 50,000 lineups on here. Unfortunately, no ETR sims. They do come out a little bit later in the day. They're supposed to be out by noon every slate, but they're not out yet. So if you want to get them for yourself, click that link down below. Sign up for ETR and the solver. You get that for yourself. And of course, Stochastic. You guys know the deal here. 15% off the promo code SPLASH. Best deal they have going. Only deal they have going right now. They'll probably have some stuff coming up for Thanksgiving, but if you want to get for today's slate, getting good, click the link down below. Use the promo code SPLASH if you want as well. Either one will get you 15% off. But if you click the link down in the description, it'll show you a menu of your various options on there. Chinese food style, Cheesecake Factory style, suppose if you want. So check it out down below. It is a good way to save money on there. And half the money you pay to Stochastic comes back to me. And we're on a good run of affiliate stuff, which I think makes me feel good, given the amount of work I'm putting in. So please keep clicking that link, check it out. And really, for you guys out there that haven't used sim stuff, that watch these videos or other videos out there and have never touched the sim, really important to kind of play with that stuff yourself, get a read on what good lineups look like. I know there's a lot of DFS players that think you get the same experience by watching these videos, and I try my best to show you at least the things that you're going to see when you use it, but really like tweaking stuff for yourself, going through lineups that are not just top lineups, sorting by dupes, stuff like that. A lot of things you can do with the sim to make yourself better at DFS. So try to do that if you can by joining down below. They also have some free ways to join as well on Stochastic. They talk about all the time. Their link join thing where you sign up for a sportsbook. Try something, but use a sim if you can. All right. George Kittle in your top ROI lineup for Stochastic, a captain. 49ers D. Brock Purdy makes it. McCaffrey makes it. Matt Gay makes it. Panthers D. So a 5-1 build, and our only Panther is the Panthers D. So really a bet here in this particular lineup that everything from Carolina fails and that the Niners absolutely destroy them. So I think that's going to be a common theme in how lineups get built, and Stochastic is giving you that as your number 1 ROI. Number 2, McCaffrey captain, Niners D again, Brock Purdy again, Kittle again. Jalen Coker makes it, Panthers D makes it. So a 4-2 Niners dominant build, and we get Coker in this one alongside that Panthers defense. Number 3, Tet McMillan at captain, Bryce Young, Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, Luke Farrell, Xavier Leggett. So we are fading Brock Purdy here. That allows us to, I guess, be a little bit more unique naturally. 3-3 build will also make us more unique as well. You still have to play one kind of flimsy player with Luke Farrell, but that's a normal build here. In general, the rule of thumb with showdowns, if you play a lineup and you're using most of the salary and every player is like a starter or a regular, rotational player, you're probably going to get duped to death. That one feels like a pretty decently owned 3-3, besides the Luke Farrell part. Number 4, you have McCaffrey at captain, Niners D again, Brock Purdy again, George Kittle again, Jalen Coker again. Kendrick Bourne makes this one. So another Niners 5-1 onslaught. You were getting fed I'm not going to say the slop, but you're getting fed like the projection, basically. You're getting Niners dominant stuff up top here in the sim as well. And at number 5, you have Pearsall captain, Brock Purdy here. Christian McCaffrey makes it. Kyle Juszczyk makes it with that fat 4-point projection. Panthers D makes it. Rico Dowdle makes it. These lineups, man, I feel like these don't feel, this might be too niche of a way to break it down. These don't feel like real winning lineups to me. Like, these don't feel like lineups that, like, it's a lot of Panthers D, number 1. they don't really make sense. Like the whole thing of any DFS lineup, but in particular showdowns historically is like, make your lineup tell a story. And like, what is the story here? Like, Rico Dowdle gets there early. Maybe they get a few sacks, takeaways, and that's what keeps the Niners from hitting their true upside. But they get there late with Pearsall and McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk. Like, I think this one makes more sense than some of the other ones. But it's like, I don't know. Niners ass kicking plus Panthers D doesn't make sense to me. Is really the main thing. Your top ROI players: Jake Tonges at captain, $2,400 salary, 59% ROI. My assumption here, kind of like we talk about a lot with the sim, is when you get these shitty players coming up top, and Jake Tonges was good when George Kittle is out, but unfortunately Kittle is in now. Really means that at this point, you're getting these guys up top because they allow you to cram in all the star players that could spike a meaningful upside. Usually these lineups I feel like aren't as good in practice. Like, I don't really think we've seen a flimsy kind of shitty captain hit with a bunch of stars. I don't think it's hit once this year. I'm sure I've missed one or something along the way. But like, really haven't had like a Jake Tonges, Luke Farrell captain, and you get, McCaffrey with Tet McMillan, with Pearsall and Kittle. Like, those lineups haven't hit very frequently this year. So I'm less inclined to play it in the sim is giving you in terms of these ROIs. But Jake Tonges, Luke Farrell, Panthers D captain, Kendrick Bourne captain, Kyle Juszczyk captain. These are your top 5 ROIs. I just do this shrug. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing here. Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, but Richie James was good, though. Richie James went for like 150 yards, whatever. I think the game that we're thinking about here is like he played the Packers one week when they had no receivers left. Like, he went nuts. This is just like, hey, you're playing shitty Luke Farrell, so you can jam in all the good players. And it's like, that's not, he doesn't have 150 yards upside. He doesn't have 50 yards upside, most likely. Kendrick Bourne still has a positive ROI in the flex. Panthers D a positive ROI in the flex and at captain. So sim loving Panthers D that won't get played very much. Whenever people aren't going to play a defense, that's when you want to play that defense. Is generally your DFS showdown rule of thumb. And Jake Tonges makes it in the flex as well. How many snaps did this fucker play? Tonges played 5 snaps last week. He hasn't played more than 10 snaps since Kittle came back in. I think the sim's going to update. This looks... And I'm beating up on the sim 2 videos in a row, and I'll be on Stochastic later today. So watch me if the sim looks like this later on. Watch me tap dance around it. Like, I don't agree. I don't agree with these plays. Like, Tonges is barely playing. I don't think that's the way to play any slate, but especially a showdown. Brock Purdy here, your number 1 exposure player. That makes sense. 50% exposure in the flex. Fields at 51. McCaffrey, 47% exposure. Fields at 46 in the flex. You're getting a lot of him. Overall with McCaffrey, you got him 47% in the flex, 39% overall. So about a little bit less than 90% exposure to McCaffrey as captain and flex. Again, that checks out here for a sim. The sim will find you a good 10 to 15% of lineups that don't include McCaffrey. The field, though, I think practically got to be 90% McCaffrey in a minimum. Rico Dowdle at number 3, 40% exposure overall. Fields at 41. Stochastic sim, like that enough. Panthers, 39% exposure. Fields at 13. McCaffrey at captain, your 5th highest exposed guy, 39% exposure. Fields at 31. Wow. Not even a slight fade on McCaffrey here. You're a little bit up on the flex, about 6% more in the flex, and you're up a lot at captain. 7.5% more almost at captain. Will Aeneas Smith be dressed? Who cares? I don't know. What are you, the fucking sim? You want to ask about Jake Tonges, Luke Farrell? He's not in the data set. I don't know. Why? Who cares? I love you, KY, but I don't know, and that doesn't matter to me. If he's gonna dress, he might come up later when I run lineups. If he doesn't dress, it will mean very little to me. Will be hard to get the SF side right. Yes, that's the rule of thumb. Is that if everybody's gonna play a side, you have to compete against so many more people who are gonna be trying to play every different version of it. They're going to play Aeneas Smith. They're going to play Luke Farrell. They're going to play Jake Tonges. It's just easier to win when that doesn't pay off and you get 3-3 Panthers right, let alone 4-2 Panthers, let alone 5-1 Panthers right. That's just, to me, one of the rules of thumb of showdowns. Captain exposure, we got a lot of McCaffrey, like we talked about, 39%, Fields at 31. Rico Dowdle, 14% exposure, Fields at 11. George Kittle, 8% exposure, Fields at 7. Tet McMillan, 7% exposure, Fields at 9. And Brock Purdy, massive fade on Purdy, only 7% exposure, Fields at 18. So besides McCaffrey, who they wanted to get more in the field of despite being mega chalk, everything's pretty flat here. You get a little bit more Panthers D at captain, a little bit more Coker at captain, a little bit less Jennings at captain, but a little bit more Pearsall at captain. That's a pretty decent spread. You're even getting Ryan Fitzgerald at captain. You're getting Leggett a little bit at captain. There you go. Highest leverage players in the data right now. Panthers D, 25% more in the field in the flex. 49ers D, 8% leverage in the flex. Kyle Juszczyk, 7% leverage in the flex. You're getting Niners D and Juszczyk about 25% of your lineups. Christian McCaffrey at captain, 7% more in the field. And Kittle in the flex, 6% more in the field, just ahead of Xavier Leggett, who's got 6% more in the field as well. Overall negative leverage plays in Stochastics top 150. You're getting less Purdy at captain by a good amount, 12% less at captain. Again, playing the pass catchers a little bit more. I think that's logical. Brian Robinson, negative 10% leverage in the flex. A pretty decent fade on him. They are playing more McCaffrey, so that does kind of fit how a lineup build should look. Juwan Jennings, 22% overall in the flex. You're getting negative 10% leverage on that. Jatavian Sanders, who did play less than Tremble last week, is noteworthy. Negative 9% leverage on Jatavian Sanders in the flex. Then Ted McMillan, a fade on Ted. This is the one I really strongly disagree with. I think Ted has a lot of utility if you are playing, Niners heavy stuff. Certainly if you're playing Panthers heavy stuff, I think Ted having a good day being one of the ways they pull ahead, like Dowdle, makes sense as well. But Ted McMillan, I think they're undervaluing Ted McMillan. But let's do a single lineup sim here. Let me hand build. We'll put how I feel about the slate to practice. Before I do that, though, guys, please do hit that like button. Please subscribe here. Again, I'm willing to be here bravely yelling at the sim on your guys' behalf here every show, at least the last 2 shows in a row. But, really the main thing here is we're using the sims to get a read on what Stochastic users will do. This also does update as the day goes on, so sometimes stuff that I get mad about this part of the video, this part of the morning or afternoon, by the time this comes later on, before on live, before lock, they'll adjust it a little bit. Sometimes they watch the show and adjust it when I yell at Chase Brown a little bit too much. So that's sometimes how it goes, guys. But please do hit that like button, subscribe here. You're all part of the journey here along with me. We're all just trying to gamble and do better on these slates. And that's the work here that I'm doing Monday and Thursday for Showdown videos, Friday for the main slate this week, Wednesday for the Thanksgiving slate. So stay tuned here and hopefully you will be in good hands. And check out Stochastic as well, 15% off with that promo code SPLASH. Only deal they have going. It supports the show and it supports you. And the solver too, if you want to check that out, link down in the description, no discount. Join the channel too. $5 to join here if you want to be in a part of a good community. A lot of you guys have been joining lately, so please keep joining here. $5 supports the show. You also get my data sheet and a free stream, or a premium stream rather, every week that becomes free for you when you pay money. It's the exact opposite of free. But if you join the channel, I think you get good value for $5 here. So please do join the channel, do all that. All right. Hopefully some cooking tips. I'm not cooking. We just go to my in-laws. But I have made a pretty good turkey before. Put an onion in the turkey. That's my tip from my grandpa gave me his recipe. And when I was in college, my first year, I did not travel back to New York, was all alone in LA as a newly minted 18-year-old. And I made a turkey and, just keep basting, put an onion in there. I don't know. Put some butter on the skin. You can do that too. That's the things I remember. All right. McCaffrey captain. Do we not be a hero here? We know what the sim's going to like. But I'll try to be a hero. We'll put McCaffrey in the lineup, but I'll put him in the flex. Captain. Who would be captain? Bryce feels like the brave play. Tet feels like the more logical play. I'm going to go Bryce. I'm going to go Bryce captain. I'm going to go Tet McMillan as well. I'm going to try to go Rico. Leaves us 2K left for our last 2 spots. Probably too much money being spent. Then we play Trevor Etienne and we're done. And Tremble cheap enough here. Oh, we're building towards a Panthers 5-1. Juszczyk? How many? That's 29 snaps for Juszczyk. Doesn't feel great. I think Juszczyk feels better than Sky Moore. Luke Farrell played 16 snaps last week, which is more than Tongus. Can Jimmy Horn catch a touchdown from Bryce Young? Can we go like full? The Panthers actually do something here? Probably not. Let's put in use check. So 2 RBs from the Niners, a full fade of the Niners pass game. Bryce Young captain, McCaffrey, Tet McMillan, Rico Dowdle, Tommy Tremble, Kyle Juszczyk. That's a 16% ROI, but I also put it in a small field contest. Let's go large. 25 to first. If this is a positive ROI, I'm going to quit. So Bryce Young captain, Christian McCaffrey, Tet McMillan, Rico Dowdle, Tommy Tremble, and Kyle Juszczyk. So negative 4% in large field. I feel like if I give Rico back, we go Pearsall, 4,400 left. Do we go Chuba? Maybe Chuba gets there. Rico Dowdle doesn't. So Young, McCaffrey, Tet, Ricky Pearsall, Tommy Tremble, Chuba Hubbard. Negative 71. This never wins. I hate it when it does that. The 0% win rate tilts me so much. In showdowns, everything wins. They're like something, it wins once in fucking a million tries, but not zero. Not a flat zero. Okay, let's take Pearsall out. Let's build a more traditional Panthers 5-1. So we go Panthers D here. But I don't know if Bryce Young can be slinging enough to make it captain if the Panthers D makes it. And an 8,400 left for one more player. Pearsall, Juwan Jennings. Jennings projects better. Let's go Pearsall. So Bryce Young, McCaffrey, Tet, Panthers D, Tommy Tremble, Ricky Pearsall. Negative 46. Suck my dick. All right. All right. Here, let's let them complete the lineup here. Let me take out those two guys. Here, what do you think, Sim? What do you want to play? Juszczyk and Tremble is what, or Juszczyk and Brock Purdy is what it puts in. Okay. We'll give the Sim exactly what it wants based on optimal. Negative 21%, so it doesn't like its own lineup that it just gave me. All right, let's put some variance on. Let's put a lot of randomness on here. Now you complete the lineup. Okay, you put in Matt Gay and Juwan Jennings, which also doesn't feel particularly brave, but sure. Bryce Young, McCaffrey, Jennings, Gay, Tet McMillan, and that's still negative. All right, let's go back to the sim here real fast. What does a good Panthers dominant build look like? Let's start with that. Carolina 4. Tet McMillan captain, Bryce Young, McCaffrey, Coker, Juszczyk, Panthers. Leaving 5,300 on the table. Holy shit. But okay, that's what it likes in a Panthers dominant build. Number 2, McCaffrey captain. Chuba Hubbard, Juwan Jennings. Panthers D, Rico Dowdle, Ryan Fitzgerald, not Ryan Fitzpatrick. Apparently the sim does not like Bryce Young captain. All right, let's see what that looks like. Captain contains Bryce. It's only 3 in the top 150. Bryce Young captain, Coker, Panthers, Pearsall, Rico, Tet McMillan. So you got the double here. And it's a 5-1. Number 2, Bryce Young captain, Kittle, Jatavian, Coker, Rico, Tet McMillan. Number 3, Bryce Young, Purdy, Jatavian, Jennings, Juszczyk, and Rico. So wow. So actually in these Bryce Young captain lineups were fade McCaffrey. So that might be why it doesn't like it. I think could be part of it. But that's interesting. Okay. What about a lineup just without McCaffrey? Real fast. We saw a few here. Lineup does not contain McCaffrey. But what does it take for McCaffrey not to make it? Lineup does not contain, not Bryce, McCaff. There we go. Purdy captain with Niners D, DeMarcus Robinson, George Kittle, Matt Gay, Rico Dowdle, leaving 3,400 on the table. So does it think that all the good Niners receivers will be overowned if you play a Purdy captain without McCaffrey? Maybe. It's a weird lineup for number 1. Number 2 is a Rico Dowdle captain. Niners D, Purdy, Kittle, Panthers D, and Pearsall. So Panthers D maybe controls most of the game and Rico gets there. Using all 50K. Number 3, Bryce Young, Jalen Coker, Panthers D, Ricky Pearsall, Rico Dowdle, Tet McMillan. So it seems like the McCaffrey fade builds for the most part are not like the Niners have success, but it doesn't include McCaffrey. It's like the Niners fail and McCaffrey doesn't make it as a result. Number 4, Rico Dowdle. This is all the lineups without McCaffrey. Rico captain, Brock Purdy, Jennings, Juszczyk, Matt Gay, Tet McMillan. Panthers D at number 5 at captain, Bryce Young, Jennings, Pearsall, Dowdle, Tet. I gotta say, I don't like how any lineups look. It's one of those showdown slates, guys, where I don't feel particularly great about any of it. But we'll see what we get today, guys. I'll give you guys my 3 ways to get unique in a moment here. Before I do that, one last run through plugs. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. It goes a long way for me here. Ultimately, I'm just one guy showing you my gambling as best I can. Of course, I come by it earnestly here, having done this content for almost 8 years professionally now. So please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please show some love if you can. Of course, this channel that is just the little engine that could. And you guys are helping out a lot by hitting that like button lately. But I'm trying to grow the NFL stuff, trying to grow the NBA side. And it's working well so far. But I'm putting the work in. Hopefully, you guys could tell. So please show some love back. Hit that like button, subscribe here, and check out Stochastic, 15% off. Check out the Solver, no money off, but link down below. Both the promo code SPLASH, and join the channel here. If you're on iOS, you can join there, but you pay some extra VIG. I'd recommend going to desktop, joining here, getting the Discord, join the NBA channel as well if you want projections for NBA, updated 6 times a week as well, or 6 days a week. But show some love, join here, be a part of the community. We're doing something I think that's pretty cool in the dying days of DFS. 3 ways to get unique. I mean, fading McCaffrey would be one, but I do think like max 1 of McCaffrey and Brock Purdy feels like a thing the Sims were giving you. Again, projection-wise, DTR, when the projections were giving you these guys naturally, heavily across the board, it was top 25 lineups all had Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. At that point, you think about fading one of them at the very least. And of course, that's how I've won the most on showdowns historically. It's just, you see it happening a lot. You pay that, you pay that price tag for one guy, get unique around it with the rest of that salary, not play the other. Joe Burrow and T. Higgins had massive success for me many moons ago to win 25K in a showdown. That's how this looks. So is it likely that Purdy and McCaffrey make it? Yes. Otherwise, why would they be in the top 25 optimal lineups? But if you strip one of those guys away, you'll be more unique for it. And I think that's one way that just paid off the last slate we talked about. The max 1 of 2 guys. That happens a lot in showdowns. Other ways to get unique. I think not playing a dominant Niners build. Obviously, they still sim well. That was the case, again, the last showdown slate we had on Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football with the Cowboys and the Raiders. Like, people love playing the things that come up naturally in projections. And that's the same thing for main slates as well. When you get, like, in your cash game build, here's a game stack, like Arizona-Jacksonville, that game stack we talked about, that didn't hit. Like, even though those guys played well enough, that wasn't a thing you needed because it was too obvious when it's coming up in the cash game build. Today, you're getting 5-1 Niners and ETR's cash game data. No matter what in the top 25, you're getting 5 1s and 4 2s, more than 2/3 of the time. That's where I think you start to build more Panthers dominant stuff and expect it to pay off. And I think that'd be the case today. Third way to get unique. Bryce Young at captain. I mean, I really think it's like Panthers skill position guy at captain. That's not, it's not Rico Dowdle, especially. But I don't know if that's a great one because like McCaffrey could still make it as captain even if the Panthers have some amount of success. So that's not like a hard and fast rule. But I do think playing a Panthers captain, frankly, playing a Niners receiver captain seems underowned too. Really, if you're not playing McCaffrey, not playing Purdy, and seemingly not playing Rico Dowdle, that's going to be enough to get you unique on the slate. So let's make it simple. If you don't play McCaffrey, Purdy, or Rico at captain, you're probably unique as well. So that's 3 ways to get unique, guys. There's always more, so think about it for yourself. And there's also the general ones, always leaving more salary in the table, that kind of stuff. But hopefully that adds some value, guys. Of course, make sure to gamble responsibly, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow this channel at Splash Play Pod on YouTube and Twitter. Check out my NBA streams today at 2 p.m. You can find that on the playlist here on YouTube, or if you're on Twitter, you can watch the video at 2 p.m. today. But we'll be doing the NBA slate in about an hour and change, so come join me for that one. And I appreciate all you guys being here. So if I don't catch you before Thanksgiving, have a happy holiday week here. Of course, I'll be back on Wednesday for that Thanksgiving slate here on this channel. I'll also be back later today on Stochastic's channel for the Live Before Lock show, and hopefully they will change the sim in a way that pleases me so I don't have to go, what the fuck, on their content. But I'll do it if they give me these fucking shitty captains later. I'll do it, guys. So watch that later today. Appreciate all you guys being here, and I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Catch you for NBA in an hour, and if not, bye-bye.